So here I'm actually forcing sort of a fork in the road by having it go up this direction, and then I'll show you in a moment how I'm creating the fork on the other side. So I'm going to let this get really small and then get really big first. So then I'm just going to come on the other side here where I started forking off up there, and I'm just going to add the other sort of half of it down here. Just so that that shape, that blob, becomes really amorphous and just interesting. You could have it do that as many times as you want. You could include absolutely none of that. You could be very systematic about the whole thing. The sky is the limit. And I'm just going to have this one come off the page here. I'm going to actually draw in another little line. Let's put it here. Which is, of course, going to basically force me to have another sort of one of these. And I'm going to, again, start that one with an ellipse. And then these ones are all going to go up from it. And the other side will all go down from it in much the same way that we've done on some of the other columns. You do not have to do it that way. I just want to show you sort of all the different options that you have. So again, I'm just going to flip my page so that I'm working on this half. And I would just do very much the same thing. Notice that I am using a mechanical pencil This is one of those instances where actually using a mechanical pencil is better than using a drawing pencil, simply because you will get a crisper, cleaner line, and you will not end up smudging quite as much. You still will probably smudge a little bit and probably get some pencil on the side of your hand, but that will definitely not be the first or the last time, I'm sure. So I'm just going to finish out this sort of column and then flip my page to show you guys a little bit more on the other style of the amorphous one. Just gonna add a little bit there to make that make more sense. So there's that. And then I would still fill in these spaces in between with some more just wonky shapes. So then I'm just going to come in here, and right here I could turn this column into one that starts with an ellipse here, and then goes across that whole page. So let's go ahead and do that for this one. So some of those lines got a little messy, so I'm just going to go ahead and clean them up a little so you can see the bands better. Plus that will make it easier when I go over it with the Sharpie to know exactly where those lines are. And you may have to do the same thing, and that's fine. So then in here I'm just going to put a wee teeny tiny one. Just to fill in that gap. And then I'll actually go ahead and do them downward this time. Just to remind you guys that that is an option, since I keep flipping it. If you draw curves better or more comfortably going down, that's perfectly fine. So then at this point I could have something that will just branch off out of nowhere. I could come in with something like this and have them not even touch at all and fill in the spaces in between. So let's just put an ellipse here. Well, let's put it here actually. And then have this one come down. And turn it into some sort of something. So it's absolutely okay if it does not look like much at some point. And it's always okay if you experiment with something and you feel like you don't like the way that that turns out. It's always okay to erase. That's why for a lot of projects we'll do thumbnail sketches, so that if we don't like our first idea, we basically are just doing a quick version of it and then can come up with a new idea. This particular project, if we did a sketch first, would be forever. So we tend to just jump right in with this project. Plus is more about the actual technique and the elements than it is about the subject. But essentially I would just finish up both of these, going kind of everywhere until I end up with something kind of like this. At which point I would be ready to go over all of those pencil lines with an ultrafine tip Sharpie. I could make this section smaller if I wanted to by kind of adding in more ellipses, and then I would be ready to erase those pencil lines and start talking about the color schemes.